Hi guys. We all have that little nagging voice in our head. You know, the one that conveniently reminds us of our very darkest fears about ourselves at the most inopportune moments. And you know the sort of things it says: you're not good enough, you can't do this, no one will ever love you. All those fun things that hold you back and kind of ruin your self-esteem. Well, in this video, I'm going to talk about that guy. I'm going to seek to answer the question, what the hell is it playing at? And explain why it might not be the malevolent demon we sometimes perceive it to be. I'm Tim Box, mind coach, and today I'm going to help you make peace with your inner critic. So in a previous video, I spoke about intrusive thoughts and briefly touched upon the concept of the inner critic. I got a few comments on that one requesting a video covering that very topic in a bit more detail. So here it is. The first thing to say here is I've personally had quite a journey with my inner critic. The thoughts of inadequacy and awareness of my own shortcomings loomed large when I was at the very epicenter of my struggle with social anxiety. There was a point where my self-esteem was pretty low, and it was actually many years before I got to a place where I no longer felt vulnerable to the debilitating effects of those kinds of thoughts. However, I do regard the process of re-evaluating those thoughts, and in particular the motivation behind them, as pivotal to my recovery. It was understanding them that allowed me to be at peace with my inner critic. So the idea of there being a part of our psyche that we might refer to as the inner critic is present in most psychological models, and some psychologists will actually list as many as 7 different types of inner critic. Sometimes that part will feel like it's deliberately beating us up or putting us down, and for most people, the part of themselves represents the loudest negative voice in their life. It's an unfortunate truth that for all the many and varied people that might have given us criticism over the years, the person who's given us the most is ourself. But it's important not to make the mistake of thinking that part of you is malevolent. Even though it's saying the sort of things that someone who hates you might say, being mean to you isn't actually the motivation. What's actually going on is an attempt to protect you. You see, we're not born with insecurities, we develop them as we grow and learn. Maybe our parents were overly critical or didn't show us enough love. Maybe we were bullied by other kids at school. Maybe our teachers gave us the impression we'd never amount to anything. Or maybe we just tried and failed a few too many times to easily ignore. Whatever the cause, as we grow up, parts of us learn limitations, both real and imaginary, based on those negative experiences. Those experiences shape your perception of who you are and what you can achieve. Now, because your mind wants to protect you from similar negative experiences in the future, it will actively intervene whenever any similar situation presents itself. It will do that by reminding you of those perceived limitations. It might sound like the bully, but it's actually trying to take the role of protector. My mind used to keep me away from the possibility of rejection by encouraging me to isolate and avoid groups of people. It did that by telling me people didn't actually like me and I really wasn't very popular. Now, that part of me had evidence for this. I'd been through bad experiences and times of ridicule and rejection. That part of me believed it was telling me the truth, but another part of me knew these thoughts weren't helping me. So what do we do? Okay, there are 2 recognized approaches when it comes to silencing the inner critic. The first is to treat it as your enemy, to ignore or dismiss it, taking the view that the inner critic is something to be overcome. The second approach is to treat it as an ally that's best befriended and in some way reformed. So you probably already guessed which option I favor. I really don't see the point or the benefit of making an enemy of a part of your own mind. The inner critic isn't a mystical entity that possesses you and must be resisted. It's a part of you. Whilst it may have been informed and educated by others in your early years, that voice is your own. It's a part of you that cares about what happens to you, and it cares enough to be the friend that tells you what it believes to be the difficult truth. The good news is that whilst you don't have to hate that part, you don't have to believe it either. Like so often in our lives, the inner critic is mostly just a part of us repeating what it heard, in fear of what might transpire if those thoughts are ignored. If we work with that part of us and take the time to re-educate and reform its opinion, then we're very likely going to end up with a powerful ally. So let's break this down a little. Here are my top 3 things to remember when dealing with your inner critic. Number 1, being aware of your flaws is okay. Always remember you're human, not perfect, and you have a front row seat to all of your many entirely human mistakes. So when your inner critic plays back a memory of one of your spectacular failures, you don't have to cringe and shrink from that thought. That was just a version of you that was yet to learn that particular lesson. Now you've learnt, and now you have grown. A part of you expressing fears about your own limitations isn't a cause for panic. It's an opportunity to notice the difference in you now compared to you then. Number 2, the inner critic is not your enemy. Yes, as I've already stated, the language it uses may resemble the language of your enemies. It may sound very similar to the way your tormentors used to talk to you, but of course it's going to. That's where it learnt this outlook. Those people in your past were the ones that taught you to doubt you. Don't shoot the messenger here. Re-educate that part of you. The opinion others had of you is no longer to be regarded as coming from a reputable source. You're the expert on you, and let your inner critic know that with the best will in the world, we won't be paying attention to outdated information from unreliable sources. Number 3, update your self-image. It's not enough to tell your inner critic the version of you it has on file is outdated. We need to make sure we give it the latest news. Don't be afraid to praise yourself and shine that light of conscious focus on your daily achievements and amazing qualities. Give yourself credit and make sure the voice you hear in your head isn't purely one-sided and negative. You know, aside from the ability to make mistakes, another human quality is that we never stop learning. We never stop growing. Get active in reprogramming your mind to move in a positive direction when it comes to your self-image. Don't simply lament the fact that your inner critic seems to have a bad impression of you. Get busy correcting that outlook. The bottom line here is that life is very much an ongoing experiment. Think less about the success or failure of your efforts and more about how great it is to try things out and take part. When that inner critic says you can't do that, and put your arm around that guy and say, you know what, you might be right or you might be wrong, but how about we go and find out? Because we're not learning anything by doing nothing. Thanks for watching this one, guys. I really hope you've enjoyed this video, and if so, please leave a like and why not click the subscribe button so you can see more videos just like this one. But that's it for now. I'm Tim Box, Mind Coach. Remember to be kind to your mind, and I'll see you next time.